goes back to one fundamental point in the construct of ASEAN. It is, number one, a intergovernmental body. It is not supranational. It is not like the EU or some other regional organization which aspire to be a supranational body. So at all times, we have to take into account the interests of each of the member states of ASEAN while we operate as a regional body. In fact, my consistent point has been that the high and low of ASEAN depend on what kind of leaders we have at the forefront in ASEAN, either the foreign ministers or the prime ministers and president. Of course, one group of ministers whom we seldom widely acknowledge in ASEAN gathering is the economic ministers. Without their plodding along and diving into the technicalities of economic integration, trade liberalization, we will not even have the simple thing called ASEAN Free Trade Area, which was initial in 1992 and operational in 1993. That, after triggered off all the various economic integrative efforts that we see in ASEAN and what we have today. So, basic point is that the leadership in ASEAN at the political level, at the economic level, and at the secretarial level, where the Secretary General of ASEAN is located together with the professional staff, are all very important. The high and the low depend much on these individual leaders. And of course, we have to worry about the geopolitical development in our region from time to time. But leadership is, in my opinion, critical. And when we have good leaders, we sometimes manage things more efficiently, less acrimoniously, and giving the impression that we have at least in control of what is going on in ASEAN. But since the organizer want me to talk about the low and the challenges going forward, maybe I'll just highlight a few things. The lows in ASEAN really is that increasingly it is difficult for us to operate the impression of having consensus on the most difficult issues. Up to now, we have overcome various difficulties to appear before the rest of the world as generally, although we are not able to make quick, decisive move, although we are fumbling, we somehow manage to convene meetings, get people to agree to some basic parameter in statements, and move along. The key thing in this whole development is really because the big powers, the old superpowers, today we just call them big powers, they all don't see ASEAN as a threat to their basic national interests and can accommodate what ASEAN country as a group would want us to do, would want them to do. So today, it is not easy anymore because the big powers, they have different opinion of how the world or how the respective region should be shaped, should be managed. And they don't see ASEAN as such an important body because some of the big powers think that they can manage everything and all the rest of the world just have to fall in and do what they expected them to do. And if the regional organization cannot do what is expected, then one or two guys in the various regional organizations will be activated to just avoid a consensus or consensual position. So this results in a more messy geopolitical situation around the world. And in the current situation, ASEAN leaders, as I said earlier, they are critical, but all of them are involved in their respective national, political, or economic developments. So they have to always bear in mind the national interest first, and they leave the regional ego somewhere in the cupboard. So the ASEAN ego, as I always say, the regional ego for Southeast Asia, has now been minimized. The second trouble, or second set of problems we have is that the traditional way of doing things, we used to get certain initiatives. We either work on our own or we work with the big powers, and we can guess where roughly we can go and how much space we have. These days, such kind of room no longer is available for ASEAN. As I say, one reason is that the big powers expect everybody to follow what they actually want, and they don't give enough room for other people to maneuver, even for a certain degree of self-respect and self-esteem. The more important factor is that we are constantly faced with crises. Political crisis, financial crisis, economic crisis. The cycle of crisis popping up has become shorter and shorter. And so before you could manage what is left over from the previous crisis, another one will pop up. And this compels most of our ASEAN countries to be constantly on the edge. And if they don't have enough astute political leadership, the domestic population in our respective ASEAN countries will also become more noisy and in some cases threatening. So what do you have? You have domestic agenda in ASEAN countries taking over and determining how the respective ASEAN countries would pursue the ASEAN agenda as well as their respective foreign policy. Conclusion, this means that the education, the IT savviness of our people in ASEAN have reached a point where everything the political leadership would like to do on anything will be difficult. What's more, with regard to what ASEAN wants to do, and to most ASEAN citizens, the ASEAN body is not a very effective and beneficial body. We can discuss about it, why is it like that? But the impression is that, national interest or domestic concern come first before worrying about ASEAN. The last point here is that the dialogue partners which ASEAN used to have, we still have 10 dialogue partners. We have not changed. We had a bit more sectoral partners. Some, we call them development partners, all because ASEAN operate on this principle of other people's money. So if we want to be constantly supported financially by other people, we have to be nice to these guys, either become a dialogue partner or become sectoral partner or become development partners. Yeah. But these partners these days, especially the dialogue partners, they are all troubled by their own domestic problems. And not many of them have this leeway to do more with a good friend like ASEAN. So, in other words, growing problem in ASEAN is that you want to grow as we have been doing for the past decades. ASEAN countries will have to put in money. Yeah, But who are the guys who are asked to put in money? You can count 10 countries in ASEAN who can be seem to be the Santa Claus or the Godfather. But the trouble, like the Japanese have faced, I put in money, but I don't get respect. I don't get any influence in anything called global affairs. So how are you going to get any of the so-called well-developed ASEAN economy to put money to try to do something about the region? So we have to think about this as we go forward. Yeah. The last point I want to make is that ASEAN is not just a talk shop. Actually, it's not quite fair. Everybody in any regional organization or international organization will tell you they are a talk shop.
Nothing wrong.
Yeah. But somehow the media and those of us who read a lot of the media reporting seems to think that this ASEAN talk shopness, if I can call it, is peculiar to Southeast Asia and peculiar to ASEAN. Nobody else has this problem except ASEAN. First of all, it belies the basic point. Nobody understands what is ASEAN. They always think that ASEAN is the wrong spelling for Asian. Yeah. So I always urge audience, please, when you spell ASEAN, don't spell it A in uppercase and S-E-A-N in lowercase. Always spell it, the whole word, in uppercase. It means an acronym. Right? Just like UN, you call it United Nations, people think that it's a United Nation of the Americas or what have you. So this is the problem we are facing. Secondly, everybody thinks that ASEAN is the panacea for all their problems. Today we have Myanmar, Rohingya, everything. Why is ASEAN not doing anything? Why is this Nobel Prize winner now suddenly become the evil person that most developing third world countries are infected with? So, you see, this is the problem of misunderstanding. But then we cannot change the world. ASEAN should not be too ambitious. We are a talk shop, so what? Yeah, we managed to maintain our cordial relationship. We don't have big fighting, big war here. We don't have massive flow of refugees left, right, center. And we are a toothless tiger, so what? We are still a tiger, right? Just like we are old, we got no teeth, so what? But every time when people say ASEAN is a talk shop or ASEAN is a toothless tiger, we all get worked up. So going forward, Mr. Chairman, I just want to urge all of us, just relax. If we can do anything about geopolitical problems around us, about our domestic issues, ASEAN problems, let's do it. If cannot, people criticize us, so be it lah. Thank you very much.